A template for your doodles, a teen page featuring cut and fold techniques using dies with Stacey Caron, a formula for double page layouts featuring eco-friendly supplies, and cards from leftovers with Rachel Carlson.
Maps, templates, and guides today on Scrapbook Soup.
Today's Scrapbook Soup has been brought to you in part by Spellbinders, die templates for cutting, embossing, and stenciling. Beautiful details, inspiring creativity. Spellbinderspaperarts.com. Stamp, sprinkle, tap, heat, wow. Wowembossingpowder.co.uk. Sakura Color Products of America. sakuraofamerica.com.
When your creativity seems to falter, guides and templates can be the jumpstart to your scrapbook pages. Hello, I'm Julie McGuffee, and this is Julie Faith on Balzer.
We can all use a little help in organizing our thoughts as we start a new project. And Julie's got a great book that has some guides for us.
Right, I found this in the scrapbook store, and this is called Page Maps. This is actually Page Maps 2, so I'm assuming there's also a Page Maps 1. But this, Becky Fleck, she is a scrapbook designer, and she actually put together this book to help us. Because if you find a formula that you like, you can actually keep on repeating that formula.
Right,
if you
so
like a style.
The
Exactly.
book works, right, is there's a sketch, and then there's several examples using the same sketch. So you can see how it works for lots of different styles.
Right, and then you have all the little cards in the back you can actually tear out and put them on a ring. And she even has dies that go right along with these templates in the book.
Wow, that makes it super easy. And I'll be right back with a little controlled doodling. I really love doodling, but sometimes I feel a little bit doodle challenged. And one of the solutions to that is to use a template. And you can see here on this layout that I have used a template to create the entire background for my page. It's almost like having your own custom pattern paper. Let me show you how easy it is to do. So here is my template, and I'm just using a piece of white cardstock, and I have taped off the portions of my template that I don't want to use so that I don't even have to think while I'm doodling. Then I'm going to use a pen that has a very tiny, tiny tip. I want to use a permanent pen, and all I'm going to do is I'm simply not even thinking about it. If the template raises up, I don't worry about it. But I'm just using the edge of that template and I'm thrusting my pen against it so that I don't even have to think about whether it's neat or messy or what's happening. I just want to get the shape of these doodles down. And this is something great to do with kids or anybody who feels like they need a little bit of help coming up with some doodles that are fun to do. And let me just show you the result there. Isn't that cool? It looks so intricate and detailed, and all I did was trace. So here's one that's completely done, and I just love it. And now I'm gonna take a transparent pen because after I've done all of that work, why would I want to mess it up? And I'm just removing the little cap that's right there. And I just pull that off and discard it. And now this pen has a really liquid ink that's just gonna fill in each of these shapes. And I'm just letting it run through that whole thing. And because it's transparent, again, I don't have to be that careful. And how awesome is it to not have to be that careful? Because even if I go over the edge, you'll be able to see right through it. So it doesn't really matter. Now, one of the things that I did when I was doing this for my layout is I decided that I didn't actually want to color the whole thing. I only wanted to color the center section. And that's another nice thing, which is you can really change the look based on the colors you choose, how much you choose to color. I mean, this would be a very different layout if I decided that I wanted to color in the whole thing, or if I wanted to make it multicolored, or even if I just colored it blue, it would be very different. So I have one here that I have colored in, that center section, very cool looking. And now what I want to do is I want to add some watercolor splats just to give it a little bit of movement. So I'm taking a super wet brush and I'm dipping it into some black paint, loading my brush with paint and water. And then I'm going to go ahead and just tap, tap, tap on the brush and spread those watercolor droplets out. And now I'm going to set this aside to dry while we work on the title. So the next material I'm working with is something that's probably familiar to you. It's deli paper, which is the kind of paper that you use to wrap your sandwiches. And I have a couple other tools. One of them is a piece of foam, which I'm gonna put under my deli paper because that's gonna create a cushion that's gonna allow me to get a really nice print. I wanna use a permanent black stamping ink because I'm gonna doodle on top of this stamped image. So I'm just gonna ink up this nice, big, bold stamp. And then I'm gonna press it down. I have the foam underneath onto the deli paper, and I just try to put the entire weight of my body on that to get a nice impression. And boom, there it is, a beautiful impression thanks to that little foam pad. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take an opaque pen. And notice how it also has that little thing you need to take off, but notice how the 2 is not finished out. Well, I am gonna fix that because I am gonna just finish that 2. I just do the top, and again, the ink flows out of these pens almost like paint, so it just goes on real smooth and easy. And I don't have to think about it too much. I'm enjoying the zen of coloring. And I just go across, filling it in, letting it all flow together. And it's actually gonna dry to an opaque, milky finish. And you know, I might do this stripe too to add a little coordination. And this again ties the color orange throughout the layout, which I've used in the background, which is in the photo I'm using. And once it dries, it is gonna lighten up to something that looks a little bit more like this. You can see where I cut it out. But the other thing I'm gonna do is notice how I have written the word girls right here. Well, I'm gonna take a very small pen, once again, a permanent black pen, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna outline that because I want it to have a little bit more impact. But I'm not at all worried about being exactly on the lines or anything like that. I'm just giving it an easy outline. And then that, again, is very easy to cut out. And one of the things I like working with the deli paper is, if I bring this over, and my watercolor is still a little bit wet, so it may get onto some of the deli paper, but if I put that onto this layout, you can hardly even tell that it isn't exactly cut out. And the same is true for the 2. So all I would do is add my photo right here, and you can even tear a little piece of deli paper as a background, add a little bit of tape to add some texture. And now let's look at the final one. And you can see that I trimmed down the white cardstock with a paper trimmer, and then I used some scissors to cut this nice wonky edge out of some pattern paper and glue it right on. I like that contrast of the handmade with something that's a little harder. I hope that you enjoyed this, and we'll be right back.
Stacey Caron joins us now, and not only is she going to show us how to cut, you're also going to show us how we can tuck and fold to make these beautiful dimensional flowers. They look like you've got 7 or 8 layers there.
We do, actually, but it's a trick. One set of dies created all of this with one pass through the machine, but it looks like there's a lot of layers, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And you've only actually got 2 layers though, right?
It's only 2 dies. That's all.
It's all in the technique.
Yep, out of the set right here.
Show us how, Stacey.
So we're going to cut out the embellishments along with the border that we use for the layout. Just going to run this through the die cutting machine.
I love it the way that you can do a lot of dies all together.
Isn't it
all
great?
at one time.
You know what? Everyone's in a hurry, so it's good to do these things quick.
Quicker is always better, and quick and easy is even more better, right?
Yes. So actually, we're not going to emboss because of the folding and the tucking and all the other dimension that this die creates. You don't really need to emboss them.
Okay. So we're just going to cut.
Yeah. So we're done cutting. And remember to use your negative spaces.
Yeah,
you
we
can
never
save these. Don't get rid of them.
Never throw anything away, right?
Right.
So
now we've got the pieces cut out. And I actually already have some popped out here for you.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to show you how easy it is to fold these.
Okay.
So what you're going to do, take yours.
All right.
And we're just going to fold over the piece and tuck it under the piece in front of it. And you just go all the way around the die cut, and you just fold and tuck.
So we've cut, and now we're going to fold over,
and tuck.
And that's going to pop right under there. And then we'll take this next piece and fold that.
Yes.
Stacey, I think I've got it.
I think you've got it. It's pretty easy.
Oh, look at that. That is so cool.
And then you can actually layer them on top of one another at different sizes. You can also take the scissors and cut them in half and get different dimensional effects on your layout using one die.
Right. That is so cool.
There's your border. It's so easy.
And that would just go at the bottom of the photograph.
Now you see up here the pinwheel and the jewelry piece?
You know, I've been wondering, okay, why do we have a piece of jewelry up here?
Because you can use the dies with resin in jewelry, not just for paper crafts. You can do other things with the dies.
But that is paper inside that resin?
It's paper inside the resin.
It looks like clay.
It does look like
clay.
clay.
It looks like a really expensive piece of jewelry.
It does. Isn't that great? You can make all these great pieces yourself.
It really, really is. And so then you also used a small one for the center of the pinwheel.
We did. Same one that we used in the jewelry piece.
And then on the box,
yes.
what did you do there? You just got
We just
a lot
used a
of
different
colors.
assortment with different color paper, stacked them all together to get that really pretty dimensional effect.
Okay, and then you've also used it as an embellishment
Yes.
on the scrapbook pages. And obviously, we've just used these two shapes here, but you've lots of different ones that we can find, Stacey.
Yep.
Stacey, I love this technique. Thank you so
Thank
much. Now we can
you.
cut and fold
And tuck.
I love it. We'll be right back.
I'm here with an eco-friendly project that uses a little bit of recycling. And as you can see right here, I've done a spread all about my visit to Hamburg, which is in fact a city on the sea. So let's get started. We're gonna work in a recycled board book, and I'm gonna take some eco-friendly paint, which I'm gonna shake up because you need to make sure that the two parts that are inside are mixed. And then I'm gonna take care and I'm just gonna spread it directly onto my book, Living Dangerously. Then I'm gonna take a paintbrush, and you know, I like to use with a wide, flat paintbrush just because it makes the painting go a little bit faster. And I like anything that's a little bit quick and I don't have to be too worried about getting neat. Now you'll notice that we've put a mat down underneath this because I don't wanna have to worry about not going off the page or being too neat. Sometimes I think when you prepare for messy crafts, you do a little bit better and you're a little bit freer. Now you, of course, are gonna fill this whole page, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the next step. I'm gonna take some book pages, and this is just some text I've ripped out of a book, and I am gonna push it into that wet paint. And that paint is actually gonna act as an adhesive. And I don't have to worry at all if I get paint onto the edges here or anything like that. This is just meant to be mushy fun. The only thing I'm worried about is making sure that each of the edges is actually really pressed down into that paint. Now let's say that you're not moving quickly enough and, well, this just isn't sticking. Well, what you can do is you can just take your finger and you can go into some paint. It doesn't even have to be the same color. And you can just add some wet paint, and again, it will act as an adhesive. And then once it's dry, it's gonna look a little something like this. And the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my brush, I'm gonna load it up with water. I want tons and tons of water in here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put it into some white paint, very watery now, mix, and I'm gonna lightly go over the top of everything. It's kind of like whitewashing a fence or something like that. It always makes me think of Huck Finn whitewashing his fence. And while the paint is still wet, and this is key, it's really important, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my favorite tools, they're attached to my hands and I have them all the time. I'm gonna go right into the paint and I'm just gonna mush it around, spread it around. You can use your whole hand if you want, get your kids involved, have a good time. I'm just adding a little bit of color in some places and it's gonna blend with the white. Now, this is not one of those things where you have to go A, B, C right in a row. Let's say I feel like there's too much pink. I'm just gonna take some white and I'm gonna go right over the top of that. I don't even have to worry about it. Of course, this is washable paint. It's acrylic, but it'll come out while it's wet and it'll come off of your hands, no problem. So once I have done my blending, it's gonna look a little something like this. Totally cool, and you can just see the text pages underneath. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a round brush, and with that round brush, I'm gonna load it up with a ton of water, just like we do with the white paint. And then I'm gonna go into my black paint, get a big watery mess going on, and then I'm just gonna splat, splat, splat by tapping the paintbrush. And that just adds so much movement to the page. And of course, I'm gonna let it dry, and it's gonna look a little something like this. So now we're gonna build our page. And I have 4 photos that I'm working with. And you could use 10 photos, you could use 6 photos. It's just whatever you feel like, whatever your adventures have taken you. And I've simply spread them out over my page. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some of these recycled paper shapes, okay? These are little circles, as you can see here. And what I've done is I've actually painted these 3 times. I've painted yellow, pink, and then yellow again, because that just adds a lot of depth of color, which is what I'm after. And then to make them into fabulous embellishments, I'm gonna cut the shape in half, boom, just like that. And then I'm gonna take an eco-friendly crayon. Now you could eat this crayon and you'd still be okay. And with the side of the crayon, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna color all the edges of this chipboard shape. And again, just like painting the 3 coats of paint onto it, what's gonna happen is that's gonna add depth and dimension. It creates a shadow. Then with my fingers, those awesome tools, I'm gonna smush that crayon around, and then with my dirty fingers, I'm gonna rub over the top of the shape. And what's gonna happen is it's gonna start to look all distressed. Then what I do is I simply place these fun little shapes right over my photograph. Sort of, they're like a modern version of a photo corner, but not actually in the corner. They just sort of hold everything on in a cute way. Then I'm going to take these recycled glass pieces. They are flat on one side and dimensional on the other, and I'm gonna put them out in groups. Now here's a tip for you about putting out small embellishments. They're always gonna look better from a design perspective if you can put them in clusters. So what I'm doing is I'm creating some lines of these recycled glass embellishments, and I think that they almost mimic in some ways the paint drops that you see right here on the page. So as you can see, it takes no time at all to put them out. And you can use just a regular white glue to adhere them. I simply would flip it over. I actually put the glue directly onto the page, and then I press, boom, right there, and it's gonna stick. It needs a moment to dry. Now, the last piece of this layout is the writing. And people are often nervous about writing with a paintbrush. One of the tricks is to use a paintbrush that has a very small tip. You want a small, round paintbrush. What I'm gonna do is get it wet. And I like using a paint that has a little bit of runniness to it. It makes the writing easier. Now I wanna show you something, which is, it's really about the pressure. I'm barely touching the paintbrush to the book. The more you mush it, the less control you're gonna have. And as soon as my paint color starts to get light, I go back into the paint to load it up. But it's just my natural handwriting. I'm barely loading it up. I can go right across the seam of that book. And if it takes you more than one pass, you know what? That's totally fine. Nobody's gonna know how long it took you when they look at the finished product. And I can go over any part that I don't like. It's very forgiving, very easy, and it's always so nice to see your handwriting. So again, here's the finished page, but I wanna show you that I made 2 other pages with the exact same supplies. So let me pull that book towards me, and I'll show you the other 2 pages. So the first one is basically a color variation. You can see I used those recycled chipboard pieces right here. I did the same technique underneath. Here are the recycled glass pieces. I also used some smaller sizes of the recycled chipboard pieces. And then I went a little crazy with the next one, which is right here. Again, all that beautiful eco-friendly paint, wonderful recycled chipboard. These are pieces cut out of book pages, just words that I was feeling right now. I used the glass pieces as a frame. So many possibilities with some really earth-friendly supplies. And we'll be right back.
Well, we love working with leftovers, and we're going to make a special scrapbook soup today with leftover scrapbook embellishments, and we're going to make cards with Rachel Carlson. You have some great papers and that we've used earlier in the series, and now we're going to make some cards with them, right?
We are, because we always have leftovers. And what you always want to make sure you do quickly with leftovers is get the card done and get your scraps out of the way.
Okay.
So we're
So you're adding the scraps on there?
adding the scraps.
I think we have a tendency to throw things away. And that's, that's not always a good thing.
Not always a good thing, because that little scrap can be used just as
And lots
big
of
as
different things.
Exactly.
Right.
Just like
I'm a scrapbook hoarder, I have to admit. And with the embellishments, they're self-adhesive, and it makes it so easy. And of course, this is going to be a thank you card for the people who came to our tea party earlier in the show, right?
Because it's all coordinating, and we want to make sure that it's all coordinating.
That's right.
Especially if we've sent the thank you card out later, they're gonna see that we added a special touch to it.
Very cool. Now, we can use pattern paper to make a basic card, but I like to use an 8.5 by 11, and I'm actually going to cut that in half. And by doing that, we're going to get 2 quarter cards. So that's going to make it very easy. Let me move that over there, and we'll just cut it in half. And then I'm going to score it right down the center. And with the cutting blade up there, and use our scoring blade. And now we have made a quarter card. Now let's make this envelope a little bit fancy as well, because we can cut down this piece of paper to make a liner. And I'm just going to eyeball this, Rachel. I think we do a lot of eyeballing, right? So if I just make that a little bit narrow, is it going to slip right inside there? There we go.
Slide it in.
Slide it in, and you know what? We can go ahead and let me give you these large scissors if you want to trim it across the top, because we don't want to cover up that glue.
You want to make sure also that you trim where the adhesive to the envelope is going to show. That way you can close it.
Otherwise it
done.
won't seal, will it? I'm going to put this to one side, because I think now we're going to make a wedding card with all these beautiful wedding papers, and I love it that it's patterns on 2 sides. So we can use either side, and we've got our quarter card, and we're using one side of the pattern paper. I just love pink, very wedding. And with these cards, we're going to thank all the guests for all the beautiful wedding gifts.
That came to our wedding.
There we go. I'll just put that down. And then we'll put the glue on this side. You know, the thing is with making cards is that you just take everything that you have, and it's kind of like making a really good soup.
Oh, I know.
You just put everything together.
All the right ingredients go into a great soup.
And when you've got the right ingredients all the time, it's always fantastic. Now, I want to put some pearls on this.
That's going to be one
and
great soup.
maybe let's put a sticker tag on. What do you think?
Absolutely.
And then would you like to
Give it some more.
pass? Oh yeah, that's perfect. Okay, and then I love this lace look. There's adhesive on. It's a self-adhesive too, so it's so very easy to use. We'll put
Lace
that
isn't
down
always easy to
there.
get down, so this one is adhesive. It makes
And
it
we'll
much
just
easier.
Snip it off the top, and we can curl that
That's
to the
lovely,
back.
Julie.
We could even add some jewels if we want, but I know you're going to make another patriotic card. At least it's patriotic for me, right?
For you, at least. We're going to use this, and we're going to basically just use
There goes
cardstock
the
stickers.
Union Jack.
just for you.
Oh, thank you. You know what? I think we need to add a crown to, or maybe not. That's all right.
If you want a
We'll do
crown,
that. We'll do that on another one.
we can totally add a crown just for you.
Oh, and I love all the bling.
The bling is lovely because it comes in a strip already, and you don't have to do it one by one. You basically can just put it down, be ready to go.
And snip the
And
ends.
it's adhesive.
Oh, yes, I love that. The Medal of Honor right there. You know what? Why don't we decorate an envelope too? I
That
mean,
would
we
be
talk about
awesome.
decorating cards, but you know, the envelopes are just as important. We can use stickers to actually seal it. And then
can.
maybe just put something little down on the side. Maybe one of those, I love those sticker sayings
Oh,
that we have
yes.
over there. We don't have to think of what to say. It's already said for us.
It's always special when someone gets something like this in the mail and it's
Definitely.
already decorated. Good luck to the mailman trying to get the
You know what?
postmark on it.
We tend to email so many times, and when you get a handwritten note or a handwritten card, it makes it, I mean, it just makes it so very special because you don't often get those anymore.
No.
You know, I mean, you're even lucky if you get a special card on your birthday or Mother's Day. It's
I
usually like an
know.
email, and
You're now getting emails.
May seem, but oh my gosh.
Or you want a phone call at least.
Exactly. I love it. Rachel, thank you so much. Hey, we've made 3 cards, 4 cards, and an envelope.
With all of our
Wow.
scraps.
Exactly. We'll be right back.
Well, we have time for one quick journal from a viewer.
Well, this is an adventure journal that Tara Noel created, and she went on kind of a pilgrimage along the Santiago Road, which goes across the northern route of Spain, and pilgrims used to walk along this road, and they were guided only by the stars. And what was really special about this journal, it was actually a 3-week walk for her, but everything is waterproof, because they went through rain and probably not snow. But look at all these beautiful notes. I mean, that must have been an absolutely wonderful adventure
Well,
for
I love all the
her.
memorabilia that she's put on there. Not only
Yeah.
does she have all her writing, but also she has receipts and little cards, all those little things that you never know quite where to put, but they found their way into this journal.
Everything along the way. It's just absolutely beautiful, and we really do thank her for sharing that with us. And that's today's show. So join us next time as we create a new soup of techniques and projects.
Visit scrapbooksouptv.com for a mix of designers, materials, and projects. All of the patterns and pages on this Series 200, all in one scrapbook soup. This is show 208. Mix it all up with more Scrapbook Soup. A DVD set of all 13 episodes of Scrapbook Soup Series 200 is available for $39.99 plus shipping and handling. Visit scrapbooksouptv.com to order a mix of designers, materials, and projects, all in one scrapbook soup. Today's Scrapbook Soup has been brought to you in part by Spellbinders, die templates for cutting, embossing, and stenciling. Beautiful details inspiring creativity. Spellbinderspaperarts.com. Stamp, sprinkle, tap, heat, wow. Wowembossingpowder.co.uk. Sakura Color Products of America. SakuraofAmerica.com.